Welcome to the BioFruitNet e-learning course module, Varieties and Rootstocks in Organic Palm Fruit Growing. This module will give you a brief overview on the reasons for growing palm fruit varieties, as well as the challenges and goals of the organic fruit growing sector to ensure a sustainable future. This module contains three main topics for apple and pear production: varieties, rootstocks, and the variety breeding. Let's start with varieties. An apple is an apple, right? Wrong. Not all apples are the same, nor are all pears. With each fruit species, there are different varieties, which can differ a lot in their internal and external qualities. May it be the taste in terms of sweetness, acidity, or aroma, the fruit color or size, or, of course, the many different important cultivation issues which are crucial to growing apples successfully on a large scale. Fruit farmers usually grow a couple of different varieties on their farms. The variety spectrum in organic farming varies from conventional and integrated production. One big reason for this is, in organic, choosing varieties that have a low susceptibility to the main diseases is important. Since the only contact pesticides available for use in organic production have a low efficacy, pests and disease are harder to control, and therefore the use of resistant or robust varieties is an important element. Placing a new variety on the market is a long, difficult process. Market acceptance needs to be raised with patience. This limits the possible diversity of varieties for production on a large scale. The currently common solution is an intelligent mix of well-known and demanded susceptible varieties with other robust and resistant varieties. The Big Five. In apple, the five most grown varieties in Europe are Gala, Topaz, Golden Delicious, Jonas Gold, and L-Star. Except for Topaz, all of these varieties are highly susceptible to diseases, scab above all. Nevertheless, other criteria fit so well that it is still worthwhile to continue producing these varieties. Some of the main reasons are, for instance, the inner fruit quality, the storability, that the variety produces regular, high yields, and also the continuous demand of consumers when a variety is very well accepted on the market. To this point, organic fruit production is still lacking robust varieties that can catch up with the expectations of the market. In pears, the variety situation is even more difficult for organic production, since there are generally much fewer varieties available which are suitable for intense production. The three most grown are Conference, Williams Christ, and Xenia. Furthermore, the spectrum differs a lot between countries and some varieties, such as, for instance, Guyot and Abate Foutel, are specific to single countries even. Unlike in apples, pears are sometimes named differently between the countries. So what are the most important traits we have to consider in the variety choice? First of all, the fruit quality must be ensured. This highly relates with the market and consumer acceptance. If no one wants to buy or eat your fruits, all of the other traits and work needed to grow them are worthless. This means a good taste, like sugar, acidity, aroma, texture, hardness, and nice optics like color, size, consistency, should come with a variety. Further traits to consider are pest and disease susceptibility. Check out also the BioFruitNet modules on these topics. Unwanted traits include variation in production, so if a trait isn't able to produce regular yields each year, for instance, L-Star is known for fluctuations, so high yields only appear every 2 years. Storability is needed for providing fruits also in later marketing seasons, up until summer of the next year. Other traits that can be important are the harvesting period in order to equalize the peak workload in fall, and vigor to keep the needed amount of pruning work low and ensure a loose, healthy tree architecture. So that's all for the varieties. Let's move on to rootstocks. In general, all fruit trees in professional fruit production are grafted by nurseries. Since pome fruits are heterogeneous, every seedling would grow different apples, and also it takes a seedling up to 8 years to grow its first fruits. So, for vegetative propagation, the grafts of the chosen variety are grafted onto the rootstock. The rootstock has a key influence on vigor, fruit bearing, and also on pest and disease susceptibility. As shown on the right, you can usually see the grafting point at about 10 centimeters above the soil, as a thickening of the trunk. It should not be planted much lower to prevent frost damage. Across Europe, there are not many rootstocks used in pome fruit. For apples, M9 is by far the most common used rootstock. It provides a weak growth of the grafted varieties and therefore a small vigor yet high yields, which ensures low labor costs through faster harvests and cultivation steps. The pictures here show the same variety on two different rootstock types, G11 on the left, which is somewhat stronger in vigor, and M9 on the right. You can see the difference at first glance. However, the weak growth and very compressed root horizon of M9 also brings higher susceptibility to disease, rabbit and deer browsing, and abiotic damage such as drought or frost. For this reason, although it is the most commonly used, M9 is not considered ideal for organic production. The main traits that come with the rootstock type were already mentioned. First of all, the vigor, followed by yield stability and susceptibility to pests and diseases. Further criteria can be robustness against abiotic damages. Heavy frost events, for example, can lead to damage, especially on pears with quince rootstocks as shown in the upper right pictures. Also, with respect to climate change, the risk of damages from droughts are increasing from weaker rootstocks. Here you can see the 4 most used rootstocks in organic apple production across Europe, and their classification in terms of vigor compared to a seedling, their susceptibility to fire blight, a major bacterial disease that can cause massive damage by tree losses, and also the origin and use regarding the intensity of production, which relates to the tree's architecture. Pears are usually grafted onto quince rootstocks. This unusually well-functioning interspecific compatibility has the same effect on the variety as M9 has on the apple. Weaker growth with high yields, yet comparatively high susceptibility to diseases. In Europe, there are 5 different quince rootstocks used on bigger scale, listed here in the same way as was for apples on the previous slide. You have learned about the most important traits and considerations for the choice of your planting material. One aspect missing so far that is very important to include in your planning are the local or regional climate and soil conditions. Even on the orchard scale, how heavy and wet are the soils, what frost risks appear in the plantation, etc. It is important to align your chosen varieties and rootstocks with the existing conditions besides the internal traits for the cultivation aspects. Exchange with your regional fruit growing consultant and colleagues on experiences and expectations. Let's go one step back to what comes before fruit production, the breeding. In the variety part, you learned that the current fruit production, there are still a lot of varieties on the market which are susceptible to various pests and diseases. Breeding new varieties can be the most efficient way to prevent and control some of these in the long term, especially fungal diseases. We have to distinguish between resistant and robust varieties. Resistant varieties are defined by having single or combined resistant genes against a disease in their genome. A resistance brings a high pressure for pathogens to adapt. However, once the resistance is broken down by the pathogen, the variety becomes permanently susceptible. Even more so if this variety is intensively grown on large scale. In the long term, the most suitable way would be robust instead of resistant varieties. Robustness means that a variety is only less susceptible to diseases and pests, not fully resistant. Diseases may infect at a low level beneath an economic damage threshold, whilst there is no need for high input and their robustness can be maintained for longer. Dedicated breeding for organic farming is crucial to developing robust varieties suitable for the current and upcoming challenges. Pathogens adapt and become less susceptible to plant protection agents. The list of available agents shrinks, and climate change brings new pests and diseases to flight. Robust varieties, ideally bred organically, can solve many of these problems, especially in the long term. Social innovations such as participatory breeding approaches with ongoing breeding on practical farms should be further enhanced and connected within Europe to boost the process and find the best solutions. Market acceptance is a key issue. From an ecological point of view, a high number of varieties with a broad genetic diversity in the farms and on the market are crucial for a stable, sustainable future in organic fruit growing. The problem is, the longer the marketing chain, the more difficult it is to achieve market acceptance for new varieties, or for a higher diversity of varieties in the assortment of retailers, discounters, etc. That means, as a solution, that the innovative marketing concepts are needed to sell this variety as a desired quality together with general biodiversity and pesticide reduction. These marketing concepts should be developed and implemented throughout the entire chain with the growers, bundlers, and marketers. This was the BioFruitNet e-learning module, Varieties and Rootstocks in Palm Fruit Production. Thank you for your attention.